we should mention how the Simchas Beis HaShoeva of the Rambam. Let's look at it. We'll talk about it outside. What is Simchas Beis HaShoeva and why do they do it? The Gemara, the Mishneh talks about it. It says the Chalil, right? The playing the music. The Mishnah say how many days? The Arava is 6 or 7 days, and the Lulav, etc. And it talks about the partying was 5 or 6 nights. And the Mishnah then calls this party the Simchat Beis HaShoeva, which literally means the rejoicing of the water, the place of the water drawing. And then right there in the Gemara it says it's Shoeva or Chashuva. Isn't the important party or the Shoeva, the actual drawing? And you see that this was less about the water drawing and more about just the part they did at the time that they were supposed to be drawing the water. Now, the Mishnah says 5 or 6 nights of Shavuot, of Sukkot. What does that mean? Why 5 or 6? What's the determining factor? You don't do it on Yontif or Shabbos. Very good. So it could work out that there's 7 nights. Shmini Atzeres is already over. You have to draw the water. So you could do Nisuch HaMayim is on the 7 days of Sukkot. Every of the 7 days. Shmini Atzeres doesn't count. So you have to draw the water the night before. The first night is Yontif, so you don't have the celebration. It's not Docha Yontif. And if the Shabbos of Sukkot, because it's a 7-day holiday, there's going to be a Shabbos there. Sometimes Shabbos is the first Yontif. So that works out. So you have 6 weeknights, Chol Moed, to draw the water and have the party. But if you have Shabbos in the middle, so you're going to miss that week also. You're going to miss that day, that night. Okay, now we understand what it celebrates. There are those who have suggested that, I think Rabbi Zev Gold has a prominent essay you could find online about this. There are those who have been saying all along, but although I could not, perhaps someone could enlighten me and show me a source that's older than 20th century, that, and by that I mean I want something like old, really old, like Talmudically old, that this whole celebration of the Nisuch HaMayim, drawing the water, was Lehotzimi Liban Shel Tzdukim. The Tzdukim did not believe in the libation of the water. As a matter of fact, they tell a well-known story. Apparently, it was John Hyrcanus. Okay, Yochanan Kohen Gadol. There's many Yochanan Kohen Gadols, and this one it was the John Hyrcanus, the one who was the first Hasmonean to become basically a Sadducee. So he was officially king of the Jews and at least the titular high priest. And when it came time to do the Nisuch HaMayim, he poured it on his feet, and he was pelted with his rogim. And it showed that these Sadducees did not believe in something that's not explicit in the Torah, of course. You know, they're Torah literalists. And so to basically show we are the Frum Jews, we believe in this Nisuch HaMayim, they made a big deal of, what was it? They made a big deal of drawing the water to show this. Mm-hmm. The problem is, it doesn't seem to be that way in the text. We'll talk about this now, the way the Rambam has it. The Rambam mentioned Nisuch HaMayim in Tamidim Musafim. He just says they pour the water and they draw the water beforehand. But the whole partying, where does he put that? He puts that at the end of Sukkah Lulav. Well, Shofar Sukkah Lulav. He talks about how, it's supposed to take the Lulav and Esrog and where it is and what time, how we do it, the whole Gezerah, etc., whether in the base of HaMikdash. And he says, but there was a greater celebration. And that celebration was in the base of HaMikdash. At night, on the night of Sukkot, they would, after they'd close up shop for the Karbanos, they would put up a mechitza, Rav Kapach points out, because on a normal day, there is no mechitza in the base of HaMikdash. Men and women were in the Azara together if they had Karbanos to bring, especially on Erev Pesach. The whole idea of a mechitza in the base of HaMikdash was only when they weren't having sacrificial service, and in the Ezrat Nashim, where they actually did this Simchas Beis HaShoeva, not in the Ezrat Kohanim, the inner one. Josh, could you cover that? Yeah. So we see that the Rambam does not connect this celebration that was done at all with the Nisuch HaMayim. He just says this is the Simcha, the pinnacle of Simcha that was the holiday of Sukkot. He connects it to Lulav and Esrog specifically. And he says, Al Pi Musar, it's important to celebrate before God. A person should mashpil himself. He should lay himself low in front of God, just like King David did when he danced before God. And he says this is the type of celebration for tzaddikim and talmidei chachamim. Big shots would celebrate, and they would be the ones who are dancing with all their strength and might before God, because it's important for a person to serve God with utter happiness. So the Rambam mentions nothing about Simchas Beis HaShoeva there, because to him it is purely what? It's about the celebration on Sukkot. And the water drawing was just happened to be coincidentally at that time. And by the way, the Tosafists allude to this. The Tosafists have it that, it's Simchas Beis HaShoeva is not literally drawing water. What is it? Drawing inspiration. And they bring examples of this celebration from when? First temple times. The prophet Yonah, we just read about him. I just read his book yesterday. Yonah ben Amittai had his great prophetic, turning point when he attended the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. Now, if I'm not mistaken, apparently Yonah was a young man about at least 200 years before the first temple was destroyed.
Yes.
Okay? So that he's very mid First Temple times. Yonah was the one who prophesied about the advent of Jeroboam II, the greatest king in the Jehu dynasty, and also the second to last king of that dynasty. How he would be great and his borders would expand. Chazal say that he was the one who actually anointed Yehu, which puts him just after Elionavi's time. Yonah ben Amittai is a young man. So Yonah lived well into First Temple times. The Sadducees were half a millennium away. So it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Okay? Sadducees were not a thing then. So when we say Simchas Beis HaShoeva, it's not about putting a shtach to the Sadducees. It's just the way they used to celebrate Sukkot in the temple.
Where does it mention Yonah?
Where does it say? It's in the Yerushalmi, or Tosfos brings it. You open it up right at the beginning of that parak in Sukkot. It's like on the first daf in the Yerushalmi right there. Okay, and it also tells you more about Yonah. Okay. The point is that when we celebrate Simchas Beis HaShoeva, it's not about a shtach to the Sadducees. Basically, the Rambam way, the Tosfos way, the Yerushalmi way of understanding it is, it's mainly about drawing inspiration. And the celebration was less connected to the water drawing, which happened at that point, and more with the party that they did. Light a lot of candles, light torches, music, singing and dancing, all of which you should not do on Shabbos. And the further proof to this is that, what? You look and you say, wait a minute, they drew the water the first night, which is night of Yontif. They drew the water the night of Shabbos. If we celebrating the water drawing is every single night of Sukkot. But the party is only the weeknights of Sukkot. And by the way, this actually brings us to a point we've made before, Rav Tzuriel's big kasha, which is, how do we make the biggest shebang of the Sukkot holiday dafka on a Yontif night? Here in Eretz Yisrael, there's only the 8th night. There's no Simchas Torah as its own day. The second day of Shmini Atzeres and Chutzaros became Simchas Torah, so much so that most laymen don't know that it's the second day of Shmini Atzeres. They say it's Simchas Torah. That's Shmini Atzeres, it's Simchas Torah. Different things altogether. We do it on Yontif night, and here in Eretz Yisrael, it's only one night, so it is Simchas Torah. How do we get away with doing all that Simchas Torah stuff on a Yontif night? It's explicit in this Mishnah that the whole Rikudim and everything. Okay, so we don't have Klei shir, we don't have megaphones, we don't have the speakers and everything. Fine, but really, purists who don't subscribe to the Tosafists' permission in Beitza saying, well, we're not going to fix musical instruments, therefore the whole thing about clapping and dancing, etc., is now permissible, even though the sages say it's not. Right? You've seen this sugya. So there's always purists who don't, and there are those who do this. So if Tzuriel is asking, how do we do it? How did the Vilna Gaon do it? The Vilna Gaon, it says, that was when he was the most happy. He would do like David HaMelech also on Simchas Torah, while the Torahs were coming out. So, one, it's a little bit tricky. Was it talking about the night and the day of Simchas Torah, or just the day? In Ma'aser Rav, when it mentions the Vilna Gaon's a great excitement, and how once they put the Torahs back, suddenly he went back to regular Yontif happy, not extremely happy. But you can imagine Vilna Gaon's Yontif happy was also quite happy, I would guess. Hold on a second. Okay. So it's a good question. Rav Tzuriel is left with a little bit of a tzarech iyun there, but he does say that when the Vilna Gaon did it, it was already Yontif Sheni. So Yontif Sheni, this is already to Rabbanon, and that's to Rabbanon, and it's not as bad as, let's say, doing a Simchas Torah, the actual Doraisa night of Yontif. Which would mean, by the way, that what's suggesting is the Vilna Gaon were here, he would not do Simchas Torah with everybody else that 8th night of Yontif. Why? because it's Yontif D'Oraisa, and there's no way around it.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.